A second lesson learned through our Right to Breathe campaign was that working in coalition is not always the most strategic or powerful. We know that as frontline EJ organizers, we belong at the table. That's not the question. A lot of times, the question was whether we had the capacity to be at the table and whether it was the most important table for us to be at for the victories we were trying to win on a city level. We spent a lot of time trying to get clear about whether or not to collaborate with other organizations and which organizations, if so. It was generally much more fulfilling and energizing being part of coalitions that had similar theories of change and were led by those most targeted by oppression. There was more space for Thrive to be ourselves and for our members to be centered. That said, it still feels hard to say which coalition work was and wasn't strategic for the Right to Breathe campaign, as we got different things from different groups and also put a lot of time into campaigns that weren't centered around the refinery fight. For example, there was a common struggle that many different groups in Philly were doing similar work and the question of how to make the work most effective. A lot of time ended up being sucked into a large environmental coalition that was largely held by bigger green groups with very different theories of change than ours, much more advocacy based. They were super well funded and had bigger bases, but weren't connected to the front lines in the same ways we were. It felt hard on a personal level to hold our own in a space that was mostly dominated by older white men, to stay true to our theories of change and our base of fenceline residents, and to prevent them from being tokenized. It's still not clear to me whether some of that time was wasted. It was incredibly draining being part of this coalition, but at the same time, we were able to draw on the resources from some of these bigger orgs in critical moments thanks to the relationships we had built. It felt much more powerful to be in coalition with groups whose principles and identities aligned more with ours. The Alliance for a Just Philadelphia formed around the 2019 Philadelphia City Council election in an effort to elect council people that would fight for the rights of Philadelphians. It was made up of organizations that were led by and centering poor and working class Black and Brown Philadelphians, groups that had much more experience than we did with electoral politics. Taking part in the People's Forum with AJP felt empowering and helped us learn more about electoral politics in Philly, but at times the work with AJP may have pulled capacity away from targeting the refinery.